Hey everybody, this is Dr. Jay Greenstein here, coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And I am so happy to have, I'm not going to say an old friend, I'm going to say a longtime friend with us, Dr. Brian Nook. Brian, what's happening, my man?
Oh, not much, Jay. It's lovely to be with you this morning.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So Brian, man, you've been all over the world, right? So like you were in Australia and through the States, just give us an update really quick about what's been happening in your world over the last decade or so.
Well, backing up further, I graduated from Northwestern years ago, back in 1983, practiced in Iowa, then actually through doing some teaching and my work with Fix, went to South Africa to teach at the now DUT, Durban University of Technology. It's Technicon Natal. Was down there for over 2 years, almost 3,
Wow.
and had the pleasure of supervising some research and working in their technique and helping out the college there. Returned back to our practices in Iowa, planned to stay there until our kids went off to university. Of course, my plan is never the plan. And next thing I know, I was told to apply for a position of a new school that was starting up in Murdoch University in Perth, Australia. And it was a brand new school of chiropractic. Went there as the third person hired under the dean, Stephen Pallister, and then the anatomist, John Grandage. And then I was there to help design the rest of the curriculum. Had a fabulous time down there, starting from scratch. Was always a unique opportunity. After a couple of years, found myself as the dean for the next 6 years at that position, and added in addition to chiropractic and getting it as an accredited program, added in sports science and then exercise physiology. Was able to build a bunch of new facilities and so on, which was really exciting and fun to be involved in. Got headhunted for a position then outside of chiropractic in Sydney, right in Sydney Olympic Park, which was kind of a homecoming from being there at the Olympics, at the Australian College of Physical Education. I was the dean and head of college of it. About 1,100 students, 8 different degrees, all in sport. They did. It was over 100 years old. Was the school. Started in physical health and education teaching. They had dance education, sport, business, sport coaching, and then we added 5 new degrees in health science while I was there, and also moved to college. We were in a facility right on Sydney Olympic Park and Samsung building. They moved into a new facility and vacated their only 7-year-old building, and we were able to get into it and totally refit it out into our school, added a gymnasium into it and dance halls with spring floors and whole new gym and everything else. And it was a lovely project to get them involved there. But I found myself really missing chiropractic, and we've kind of been away for almost 14 years from the United States, and thought maybe we'd get a footprint back here. We're dual citizens, and we still love Australia, and at some point we'll probably end up back in Australia part of our time. So we looked around and found this position at Palmer West, where I'm the Associate Dean of Academic Affairs, doing some admin, doing some teaching, and got back to my passion of working with chiropractic students and especially sport.
That's phenomenal. That is an awesome recap of what's been going on in your world. Super impressive, Brian. So let me ask you, what's been going on for you in the world of Fix? You've been involved in Fix for a very, very long time, an integral part of what we do internationally in chiropractic and sport. Tell us what's going on with Fix.
Well, it's been kind of an interesting ride. I started out just sitting next to David Pearson at an ACA Sports Council conference years ago, back when we all went for the interviews for the NFL, and kind of took a turn. And as David does, next thing I know, I'm involved in Fix, just as a member, just finding out what's going on in Fix. And then was put in charge of really developing their education. Started this CCSP program at that time, using the ACBSP as kind of a platform to get it going, and then developed, as unfortunately many people remember, the old videotapes that they got the boxes of videotapes and did the course via that. It's the only medium we had at the time. And that was state of the art.
Yeah, that was groundbreaking.
That was huge. And they had some phenomenal instructors, like our dear friend Lindsay Rowe, that was involved in that, and Phil Santiago, and many other people that just contributed that. Took it then, upgraded it to CDs, and now, of course, under the direction of Dr. Tim Stark, has taken it to the whole nother level of an e-learning system. So I got involved with the education. That then got me involved with Sport Accord, which fixes an associate member of Sport Accord, and was on the executive on and off for years, now back on the executive, and really got involved then in what's called the International Federation Commission. The International Federation Commission is really important to the strategic plan of FIX, of developing relationships with the different international federations, both through Sport Accord, but ultimately the IOC, because one of the key strategies has always been with FIX is to get the IOC to include FIX as the support and the member that would provide the core services of sport chiropractic at the Olympics. Big was always the foundation of the reason for FIX existence. However, what most people need to realize is that in order to do that, the IOC is not going to just go, well, yeah, you guys do a good thing. The athletes really want you, but where's your track record? What proof do you have that you can work in this huge event? And so we really needed to do our homework. A little frustrating, causes you to test your patience. Some of us, a small group of us, have been working on it for over 30 years to get us into those core services. But the realization is that we've got to show that we can work in that capacity. And so that really formulated our strategy of starting to work with the different international federations. And out of that, and our contact through Sport Accord, we've now been able to link up standing agreements with different federations, like tug of war, jiu-jitsu, powerlifting, and so on. And that really came about thanks to our founders and our presidents of the past FIX of getting a standing agreement with the International World Games Association. A lot of people hadn't heard of the World Games. They actually started back in the 80s. And funny enough, not too far from me in Santa Clara, California, was the first games, and they're coming back in 3 years to the United States. They've been all over the world, but that linkage of being a standing agreement that whenever the World Games existed, FIX would provide a delegation of chiropractors. That gave us the length and the tie to start working with a lot of the international sports federations. Now, the World Games are really all the sports or disciplines that aspire to be part of the Olympics. As we all know, there's certain sports and disciplines that come into the Olympics and come out of the Olympics. And so this is the staging ground, basically, for the Olympics. And it's nice that in the 2020 paper by the IOC of their strategic plan, they realized this. And what they've done is the IWGA now is part of the IOC's strategy of development for the Olympics. And so they've now got direct oversight, although still autonomy by the IWGA, but oversight, a view of what's happening at the IWGA. So this puts us now right in the view of the IOC, which helps us with our master plan of this core services within the Olympics in the future. So the IWGA is key. With the World Games, CSIT Games came out of that in our connection at Sport Accord. We now send people and delegates and have a standing agreement with them, and that's every 2 years. The other ones we need to work on is the Masters Games and the Youth Olympic Games. Those are our big events that we're really targeting.
So Brian, just so, because some of the chiropractors that are watching this might not know what Sport Accord is, if you wouldn't mind just telling everybody what Sport Accord actually is.
Sport Accord is actually, and it's nice because I talk about this a lot. We oftentimes think as practitioners that the IOC is the world of sport. In actuality, it's a very important part, but it's only really about 27 different federations. There's over 90, close to 100 different international sports federations. Some we're very familiar with. FIFA, of course, is with soccer, and football is in the Olympics. But other ones, say sumo wrestling, is an international federation. And these federations are all part of a parent organization, which is called Sport Accord. And Sport Accord really represents all recognized sport in the world, of which then certain ones are hold at this major event, which is called the Olympics. And so if we're going to be in the world of sport, we really need to be in the part of Sport Accord. And again, years ago, to the brilliance of some of our founders in Fix, they realized this and went through quite a process of putting an application in. It's an exclusive group. The interesting part of Sport Accord is that in order to be recognized, you can't be in competition with another federation. Classic example is martial arts. There's a lot of mixture there. And so if one member in martial arts is already a member of Sport Accord, another coming in that is a duplicate basically won't be let in. So it's a kind of a good old boys club, but it's also to help support the membership and the development of sport. And what usually happens is those federations get together, work out their differences and their similarities, and then they come together or come as two separate groups. So it works really well. They hold an event called Sport Accord. I'm gonna need to back up. Sport Accord was the term that we used for years. It's changed just lately. The large group is actually now the Global Assembly or Association of International Sports Federation, GAFES. Sport Accord is just the actual conference that they hold every year where all these federations come together. Fix has attended Sport Accord, the convention, for years. And it's through that attendance to Sport Accord of GAFES that allows us to have these contacts, meet with the presidents and secretary generals, and let them know what Fix can do and what we're there to provide to help their federations. And out of that, that's where we've gotten these contacts.
That's phenomenal. So out of the 90 plus international sports federations, Brian, how many actually utilize chiropractic at their games?
It varies at times, but right now we've got standing agreements with over about 10 different federations. And we've got other ones that are still in development. Well, our target is to look at those federations that, again, first was involved in the World Games because they knew us, they've seen what we've done, and their athletes are really asking for us. And that's where the very first one was tug of war. And a lot of people will go, tug of war, why are we with tug of war? Tug of war is a key player. And if you back up into the original Olympics, it was one of the sports.
Wow.
And they've got great connections. And so we had to get started somewhere. Tug of war has been a standing member. And what we do is we don't go into, and this is really important, we don't go if there's a national tug of war event, say in Canada, or the United States, or Italy, that isn't Fix's involvement. That's our NCSC's involvement. We're happy to help, and we can work from the top down to help get that organized. But if there's a world championships in tug of war, which we are involved in, that's where Fix will be. So our target is there world championships. We may do a regional championships like the European championships, but national championships, we really want our members of Fix to run those programs and work with those groups.
Got it. And you mentioned the athlete's desire to have chiropractic care as part of, the healthcare delivery system. And it's amazing to me that, well, not amazing because we understand there's always going to be politics involved and things of that nature, but it's amazing to a degree that, we're not in all of them. I mean, when you look at the scientific evidence that's evolved over the last 3 decades as it relates to what we do every single day in our practices and on the field and in the gym, you would think it's a must-have. What are the obstacles that you feel are still in the way, and how do we overcome those obstacles, let's say, in the next 5 to 10 years?
It's really 3, Jay, that I think is. One is communication. We've got this evidence, but we know about it, but a lot of people don't know about it.
Sure.
So it's communication, which is part of education, which is the second one. We need to educate them. And then the third one, which is probably the biggest stumbling block, is the politics. And so, yeah, we've got this information. And the lovely thing is we're set up now to where we can do that communication. We can do that education through GAFES and through Sport Accord and our contact. The other thing is the political part of it comes back to what I was saying. We've got to actually prove ourselves. They need to see us in action. They need to see what's going on. And what we needed to do was get those links. And that's why it's really important that we grow our membership. We've got representation. For example, for you to be even considered as a sport federation, you need to be global. And they've put a number of around 45 different sports. So let's say we're going to start a sport X, and you come to them and you're only in 3 countries. They aren't even going to consider you because you're not a global sport.
Sure.
They may consider you in Sport Accord and GAFES, but they're not going to consider you at the Olympics because it's a world sport. So for right now, that's one thing that FIX needs to really do. We've got to expand the number of members, meaning National Chiropractic Sports Councils, across the world. Second thing is they need to be active. They can't just exist. They got to be working within their countries, helping those countries out in those federations. And so that's really our struggle right now is to get more members involved, getting more members, NCSCs, that are working at their national level so that we can present a paper to them and say, listen, we're not just a thin layer, we've got depth. And right now we need to grow our depth and our breadth of what is sport chiropractic across the world, because the evidence and the education and even the athletes wanting us shows that we're needed and we're required. And we've even got the research that shows that we're utilized at these events, but we're still thin on the ground.
So that's a great response, Brian. It brings me to my last question. What is it that the chiropractor who's listening or watching this interview, what do they need to know in order to get involved? What do they need to know in order to take the next steps in having impact in sports chiropractic?
Well, as a personal experience, I mean, I was practicing in a town of 860 in the middle of northwest part of Iowa. And for me, what it took was getting involved with my NCSC, which was the ACA.
Yeah. Make sure just NCSC, because we speak in acronyms, my friend. What does that mean for the chiropractor who's watching for the first time? So
your National Sports Chiropractic Association. For me, it was the ACA when I was in Australia. It was actually the Sports Council of Australia when I was in South Africa. We actually got one going over there, and they've taken it to a whole nother level there. So as an individual, get involved with your National Sports Chiropractic Association. That right there already helps. If you want to step out into the international realm and go to different sporting events, then the next thing is get your ICCSP. This is not a fixed requirement. It's actually the International Federation's requirements that our fixed delegations that come there have an ICCSP qualification.
And what is that again for the people that don't know?
So the International Certified Chiropractic Sports Physician degree, yes, the acronym.
Yes.
Get that qualification. And if you already have a CCSP, we set it up originally that if you've got a certified chiropractic sports physician qualification already, there's recognition of that as advanced standing into the ICSSP. You don't have to start all over. And then the other thing I'd really encourage is what happened to me was you really need to meet and get to a fixed event, an AGM, one of our meetings that we're having to meet the people and know what's actually happening. We try through websites, we try through emails and everything else, but it's not the same as meeting somebody person to person and finding out what's really going on and where you might help and assist.
That is phenomenal advice, sir. Phenomenal advice. Well, Brian, it is always a pleasure to connect with you, my friend. Hopefully I will see you in Berlin, yes, at the next FIX meeting. So for all your other docs out there who want to get involved and take Dr. Nook's advice, which is phenomenal advice, get to Berlin this March.
And just in closing, I'm really looking forward to seeing everybody in Berlin. We've got 2 events that are coming up right now. This is the CSIT Games, which is the Workers' Games. It's going to be in a beautiful place in Spain coming next year. Dr. Tim Ray's already well down the line of planning that. And in 3 years' time, the World Games are going to be in Birmingham, Alabama.
Wow.
And so they're going to be stateside for the first time since their inception. And those are out there. And then we're constantly looking for people to work our international federations events like jiu-jitsu, powerlifting, and so on around the world. And we're often needing other people to get involved. So as I when I was a student, I'd heard about these fantastic opportunities, but it's like the bus or the train had already left the station. That's not the case here. Fix is really at its exciting developmental side, and we always take young people, meaning young within sports chiropractic, to these events. It's not a good old boys club. We take seasoned veterans, yes, because we have to, but we also take a mix of those that have some experience but not as much, and some that are fresh, because that's our legacy. That's how we put it together. And we also have to show an international delegation. We also have to show a nice mix of around the world, so that we've got to put these teams. It's quite difficult putting these teams together because we have to show again that international type of flavor to our delegation actually there. And for my female colleagues out there, we're always looking for more females to get involved because we're looking for gender balance too.
Yeah, that's great advice. And you and I both have been blessed with many experiences. We've both been to the Olympics. You know, for anybody who's considering and maybe you're on the fence or you're a little bit nervous, don't be. Just take the plunge, take the big step, follow Dr. Nook's advice, and get involved, because it will literally change your life.
Well, that's for sure. I wouldn't be where I'm at if I hadn't sat next to that guy at that meeting, just happened to be there, and then make the step of going and getting involved. And the payback is phenomenal. And the experiences, the people you get to meet, the colleagues you get to work side by side with and learn from at these events is just phenomenal.
Yep, it's priceless. Well, my friend, great talking to you as always. I will see you in several months in Berlin. And thanks again for being with us today. I really appreciate you.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for your time.
Good to see you, brother.
See you. Cheers.